Tonight, on Night Friday Stories, you're about to hear two real cases, both unsettling in very different ways. One starts with a quiet phone call, a voice so calm, it almost hides the horror behind it. A mother, two children, and a truth captured on camera that would leave investigators searching for answers. The other takes place far from land, deep beneath the surface, where five men entered a confined space for what should have been a routine job. Only one came back. So dim the lights, put on your headphones, and remember, sometimes the quietest moments are the most dangerous. On the morning of October 4th, 2006, around 6:15 a.m., a police dispatcher received a call that immediately raised alarm. A woman's voice, calm and almost emotionless, said, "My children are dead." There was no panic, no crying, just silence behind the words. When the operator asked what had happened, the woman responded quietly, "I don't know. I don't remember." Officers were dispatched right away. They had no idea what they were about to walk into. When police arrived at the apartment, they knocked on the door, preparing for the worst. It opened. Standing there was 31-year-old Elaine Campione. She appeared composed, almost detached. When asked about the children she mentioned on the phone, she simply said, "Yes, they're dead. They're on my bed." Officers moved quickly through the apartment and into the bedroom. What they found was heartbreaking. Two young girls, Serena, age 3, and Sophia, just 19 months old, lying side by side on the bed. They were dressed neatly, almost as if they had been carefully prepared. But something was clearly wrong. Their skin had already begun to turn blue. They had been gone for some time. There were no signs of a struggle, no obvious cause, just silence. At first, nothing in the apartment explained what had happened, until investigators found a camcorder, and inside it were recordings that told the entire story. The earliest videos felt completely normal. In one clip, Elaine is celebrating Serena's 3rd birthday, smiling, cheerful, surprising her with a new bike. Another shows the three of them spending time together, laughing, exchanging "I love yous." For a moment, everything seems like a typical family. Nothing feels out of place. But then the tone changes. A later recording, dated just 2 days before the 911 call, feels completely different. Elaine begins speaking directly to the camera. Her voice is tense, frustrated. She starts talking about her living conditions, calling them unbearable. Then she shifts to something deeper: anger, resentment. She describes years of alleged abuse from her ex-husband, Leo, both physical and emotional. According to her, the relationship had been violent. At one point, she even claimed she was attacked while pregnant. Eventually, the two separated, but the conflict didn't end there. At the time of the recording, they were locked in a custody battle over their daughters, and it was taking a serious toll on her mental state. Elaine had already struggled in the past, including multiple psychiatric hospitalizations. But according to those close to her, this situation made things worse, much worse. She became increasingly paranoid. She believed her ex-husband would come and take the children away from her. That fear began to consume her. Then came October 2nd. That night, after recording her thoughts on camera, everything changed. Investigators later discovered another recording on the same camcorder. This one was different, darker, more fragmented. In it, Elaine speaks directly to her ex-husband, expressing anger, pain, and a sense of finality. Her words suggest she believed everything had already been taken from her.
Recording this because Leo and there, are you happy? Everything is gone. You wouldn't give peace. You wouldn't tell the truth. I begged. You even had Stacy not believing me, telling her I had to sign papers when I didn't. You wanted to win. You won. Are you happy? How does it make you feel? How does it make you feel? Because it doesn't make me feel great. I've lost everything my whole life.
At some point after that recording, she took the lives of her two daughters, then attempted to take her own. But she survived.
I tried to overdose.
So that means the remodeling time of Aurelia and Spring in stores. They are changing the displays. Now is the time to make a great deal on an Ontario-made hydro-cooled hot tub. In stock models, floor models, or custom orders, everything has a sale price. Pool Spa Sauna Showroom, making waves in Aurelia, Bracebridge, and soon to be in Huntsville. You can also check them out on the web at poolspasaunashowroom.com.
And when police arrived the next morning, she was taken into custody at the scene. The footage found in her apartment became key evidence in the case. Elaine was later convicted and sentenced to life in prison, with the possibility of parole after 25 years. What began as a quiet, emotionless phone call ended as a case that left investigators and everyone who heard it searching for answers. Because sometimes the most unsettling part is not the chaos, but the calm. The first story leaves behind a chilling thought that sometimes the most terrifying actions come without noise, without chaos, without warning. But what happens when there is no time to think at all? When everything collapses in a single second and survival becomes the only instinct left? Because the next story isn't about silence. It's about being trapped. On February 25, 2022, 5 workers entered an underwater pipeline system for what should have been a routine job. Only one of them would make it back. And what happened down there was caught on camera. A company hired a team of maintenance divers to reopen a submerged pipe that connected an oil dock to a refinery. The job required them to work inside a sealed, pressurized chamber, known as a habitat, attached to the pipeline. The team consisted of 5 men: Christopher, Kazim, Youssef, Rishi, and Fizzle. Everything seemed normal at first, until they vanished. From the surface, there was no clear explanation. No distress signal, no communication, just silence. It wasn't until investigators recovered a GoPro from one of the divers that the truth began to unfold. The video shows the men inside the habitat, working on a sealed valve that had to be opened. They struggle with it at first. At one point, one of them leaves briefly to grab a wrench. He comes back, hands it over, and within seconds, everything goes wrong. The moment the valve opens, the pressure difference triggers a violent reaction. A powerful vacuum forms instantly. Water surges into the chamber. At the same time, compressed air explodes outward, forcing all 5 men into the narrow pipeline. They're dragged through a 30-inch wide pipe at incredible speed. No control, no way to stop it, just darkness and force. After what feels like an eternity, they come to a stop. Somewhere deep inside the pipe, they find a small pocket of air, just enough to keep them alive. For now, they're injured, disoriented, struggling to breathe. One of them can barely move. And they quickly realize, this air won't last. With no other option, 2 of the men, Christopher and Fizzle, decide to push forward through the pipe. Their goal, find an exit and get help. They move through sections filled with water, fighting exhaustion and fear. But eventually, one of them reaches his limit. Fizzle stops. He can't go any further, no matter how much is at stake. Christopher continues alone. Step by step, through the darkness, he keeps going. Until finally, he reaches the end of the pipeline and is pulled to safety. The others were not as fortunate. Despite the situation, no immediate rescue operation was carried out. Time passed, and the 4 remaining men were left inside the pipe. The decision not to attempt a rescue sparked outrage. Officials later claimed that sending more people in would have risked even more lives. An investigation was launched. Questions were asked. But in the end, very little changed. Years later, compensation was announced for the families. But for many, it didn't feel like justice. Because 5 men went into that pipeline, and only one came back. 2 stories, one defined by an eerie calm, the other by sudden and unstoppable chaos. But both share something in common. A moment where everything changed, and there was no way back. But don't be surprised if these stories follow you into the silence. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next Friday. Peace.